Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Culver Planning Commission regular meeting, Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. For those online and in the audience, we are being recorded. We have cameras and audio going. So if you want to make a comment during the appropriate time, we just ask that you give us your name and your address for the record. Okay. Right. Let's stand for the
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
call of members.
Okay, Will Samuelson,
Present.
John Hook,
Here, sir.
Craig McFanaway,
Present.
Chester Goots,
Frozen.
Bob Cooper, John Miller,
Present.
Terry Seiler,
Present.
I'm here, Dan Osborne.
Present. I'd entertain a motion to approve the June 17th, 2025 minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. So we don't have any hearings for today, so TRC review.
Nothing to report for TRC.
And then move right along to zoning ordinance revisions update.
Okay. If I may, Mr. President.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about zoning ordinances revision. You've heard me talk about just typos and errors. So in Articles 1 through 6, I tried to capture those and things that this body has talked about. Changing some things that were discussed that this body wasn't interested in changing or not on this, because that's already been discussed. This is open to whatever anybody recommends. Remember, this is just a discussion. As it says, this is a draft of those changes that are proposed by me. And I'll, the first part of this, the first paragraph and second paragraph are just really the opening statements. If this goes further, just to back up, if this gets to a point where it's acceptable by this body, we'll have to put a legal notice in prior to a meeting to actually vote to recommend it to the town council. So it's strictly for discussion today.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm just going to jump down where it says 2/3 of the way down, now therefore be it ordained. And this is written. Section 1 of the Culver zoning ordinance, under the town council. This first paragraph says delete the old list of town council members and update it with our current town council. That's all that says. The second part is for an update to the correct people for the plan commission. And then also it goes on to the correct people on the next page, page 2 for the BZA. Simple updates. Of course, it'll change before this gets changed again at some time, but in section 2, the Culver zoning ordinance, article 3, standard zoning districts, intent and uses standards, section 010. And this is the first one we have in this section, S1 suburban residential district. Amendments are in the development standards under the category of maximum structure height, delete accessory buildings 50 feet and replace it with accessory buildings 35 feet, which is all of our other zoning ordinances. Now we'll get into, I'll tell you why right now, and I'll show you later where that's given it. I think that was put in, I don't know. I think that was put in to cover the academy and their buildings that could go 50+ feet. So later in this, I have something for just an institutional use.
You're creating a whole new category for that.
To underneath these standards, yes. So when you look at S1, it'll say institutional also in the book, and then it'll say that will be 60 feet. And that's why I have in the blue type underneath that. Creates that clarifies a lot of issues.
Mhm.
So, and again, this is just proposed. And also this is in suburban in the special uses category. It's add golf cart sales and service. Doesn't add boats, doesn't add anything, but adds golf carts. So,
Surprised we didn't already have some golf carts.
nope, it wasn't anything in there that would allow the golf cart sales and service. And then in permitted uses under the category of residential uses, this is happening, we know it, so I thought it might be good just to have it in there as short-term rentals. And when we get to the back, there'll be definitions too on the last page for this. My computer's making noises, I'm just gonna unplug that part. And then, and also in, it says in section 3, so still in article 3, section 020 for the Lake District. In the development standards under the category minimum dwelling size, delete 1,600 square feet and replace it with 1,600 square feet footprint. This would come up where, okay, so we could build a 600 square foot structure, 3 stories tall, and we can cover it. So you could have a tall skinny house come up. Instead of the actual intent, I believe, of this was to have it a footprint of 1,600 square feet. I'm open to thoughts of that. It already says 1,600 square feet. This just is more specific to that.
When you say a footprint, you actually mean foundation, not porch or anything like that.
So that it.
Yeah, like-
It's going to be the living part of the dwelling structure. Now, if we talk about enclosed porch, I mean, that,
Yeah. Kind of gets in the weeds, it's kind of a porch.
it does.
Would
It's
you,
a living quarters because it's got a garage. It's not considered living quarters. But it would be considered under the 600 square feet.
I would. I would add the garage in 1,600 square feet of it.
It's included in the 1,600, you're saying?
I would, yeah. If it came to me and it said 1,600 square foot footprint and the garage was all part of the main structure, I would absolutely include it. It's all part of one structure.
And this is gonna be development standards for all zonings, or you're talking?
Nope, this is strictly in
Strictly
L1. L1's the only one that has this 1,600 square feet in.
is there anything in this that would prevent somebody from rebuilding on smaller print, the footprint? They had to take the house down.
Oh, but
Okay,
No, this would still be applicable for that.
so I'm not sure that, maybe we talk past each
I
other.
think he said
Okay.
the opposite of what you said.
So, you know, I've got a lake property. It does not have 1,600 square foot footprint. And I need to rebuild, but maybe I can't do a 1,600 square foot footprint because there won't be setbacks. So can I not rebuild on the existing?
You
footprint?
can, because our ordinance still allows for that.
That's just what I want. to make sure.
Yes, yes, sir. That is still in our ordinance.
kind of non-conforming structure.
Right.
So
Okay.
you can actually build back on the structure, same size, on same foot.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, but same footprint, same height.
Okay.
And development standards under the category minimum front yard setback. And this is a clarification, says delete where property immediately adjacent on either side of a lot is already developed with principal structure. Required setback shall be determined by a line drawn between the furthest extension of the adjacent structures, including any decks or raised patios. This was discussed in here and I think it was overwhelmingly get rid of that section.
Um, I don't know why not. I just don't agree with that. Yeah,
You don't agree with this or you want it taken out? What's written is good.
but what's written, you're saying for every,
To delete that section.
oh, period, oh,
This would-
I'm not.
this would do away with line of sight.
Good, but
Yes.
fine.
Just stay through the heart.
Next, in the development standards, under the category minimum pervious lot coverage, add 50%. They don't have that written in there. It was left blank.
Yeah, maximum purpose.
Yes.
So they just took a template and never filled in the blank.
So what,
I just want your-
because of the way it's formatted and the software they use, I just don't know if it fit at the time, but they just left it off.
Now,
So-
going forward, are there going to be lots that are going to be able to adhere to this of being 50% impervious?
This has never changed. This is not a change. This is what's currently there. It just wasn't written.
It's just confirming.
The end of the sentence for where it says 50%, that 50% was left off at the end of the sentence. And permitted uses under the category of residential uses, add short-term rental. It's happening there too, so. And there's a definition for that in the back. And then section 4, the Culver zoning ordinance, still in Article 3, section 030 R1 residential district is, first thing I put in here, and I'll explain it. In the development standards, under the category minimum front yard setback, delete 25 feet and place it with 15 feet. So right now, in R1, you need 25 feet is where it's set at. Now, it gives me some flexibility to make the call, but if this is put at 15 feet, which I looked at other neighboring communities, and this is consistent with them for a setback. 25 feet on a 50 by 100 yard or
Yeah.
100-foot square lot, it just doesn't work. It has to come up to, it's coming up through variances and it will continue. This will help that
Why is that being changed again?
because it's what we do.
Is what?
It's what we do.
Well, and I
agree with that.
So right now it's at 25 feet at R1. If you have a 100-foot deep lot, your house has to be 25 feet back. However, as building commissioner, I can average the houses on that road and automatically move it up to within 10 feet of that. No more than 10 feet. So it doesn't even have to go to the BZA on a lot of cases. But in this case, that's closer to what we have. Town's full of small lots. I'm open to anybody else discussing this, but that's why I go from 25 to 15 feet. It's just reasonable.
So people could add on and, you know, sandwich in the homes more than they are now.
it's
No,
the front yard setback.
it's front yard.
Front back,
Front yard.
front back.
They could still,
The side yards are, the side yard's 10 feet right now.
How many times were you coming up against it where 25 foot was a lot longer than most people?
I've granted down to the 10 feet multiple times.
So it's fairly common.
It's very common. Because again, we have small lots in town.
And the BZA has actually. a lot too.
So we're just kind of making it so it's
Less complicated for the BZA.
It is.
Yeah.
And there'll be more to this further in as we get into the part that I play in this.
And under rule of thumb, you've got a whole lot more cases going before the BZA than the planning commission. It's black and stone as far as what the one.
Yeah.
So.
Any other thoughts?
I just want to draw a line under what you're saying, that all the lots, I mean, all lots, the lots were originally 50 by 100 at best, and that's really small.
It is. And I'm just gonna get sidetracked just for a minute. So I had a comment from a person in public, and we had one in our ADU meeting that was trying to figure out why the town went to 75-foot frontage lots at some point in time in R1. So yeah, you have to have 75 foot of frontage now for an R1. But the town was laid out with 50 foot. Just a factoid I'll throw out there. So I'll turn to page 3. And then I'm putting the same thing in for the rear yard setback, which is 25 feet for a conforming lot and it's 10 feet for a non-conforming lot, which right now most of the lots are non-conforming. So I'm putting in 15 as a happy, hopefully medium on that for the rear yard also.
Well, I see that this is gonna be a little more managed for your corner lots as well. The street on one side, street on the other side. And it's corner. You're required right now 25 feet from the front, 25 foot from one side.
Yeah, 25 feet one side is half the lot.
That's 100 square feet that you're losing or gaining, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, I got two of those lots. I got two of those lots.
So that was my thought on that. Also, front yard and rear yard from 25 and 25, which is 50 feet, which is where it's at currently. If you build a house in that, you only have the center of your yard, you only have the 50 feet, which really isn't that long on a narrow lot.
You build a chicken coop in there.
And then also under R1, under permitted uses, add short-term rental. Section 5, the Culver zoning ordinance, Article 3, Section 040, R2 residential district. In the introductory description on the top of the page of the R2 residential district, add the following to the end of the paragraph. Multifamily residential areas are intended to provide high-density residential options, which is in our, I just went blank, our town plan.
The long-term plan, yeah.
Yeah, our long-term plan.
Is there a definition of high
Yes,
density? Is there a definition of high density or higher density?
I can't answer if there's, I think the definition is probably going to vary between communities. I mean, we could build one, I guess, but
I wasn't sure if there was one that like this. It's not a big.
I'm not aware of a standardized definition for that.
Make sure it's hit denser.
And then the next, within that section, I'm asking in 1, 2, 3, 4 places in there where it says home for the aged. I'm asking to change that to senior housing and then in parentheses 55 plus, because there are laws around 55 plus year old communities. So I just don't like the term home for the aged. That's just me, but
Well, I think there's several people here who might agree with
I
you, yeah.
think you're right on that.
so senior housing 55 plus is what I thought made more sense on that. And then development standards under the minimum front yard setback. And now again, we're talking R2 still, I believe, and it is state deletes. So right now it says state highway 80, if it's on state highway, 85 feet from the center line or 25 feet from the property line. So how far you're really off the road kind of depends on where the shoulder of the road's at. I'm proposing that we just do 30 feet from the property line. Again, this is in the R2 district. So it gives us a little space back from a state highway. And in this case, I was thinking kids in this case. So I'm open to any thoughts on that.
So that comes up along State Road 10
And 17.
and 17 going south.
And 117.
What's that?
But 117, that's their backyard.
Well, 117 is East Shore Drive.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. That's the backyard of those.
Certainly.
It is. Yes, sir. But there are some homes on there. It's front.
Didn't it say before state says 25 feet from property line, that's 85? Does it say which is closer, which is further or something on that?
And whichever is greater.
Whichever is greater.
There's
We're gonna do that as well. Oh, no.
So,
The whole
it's,
state,
pardon me?
the whole state, not your part.
You'll have to take out the whichever is greater part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I will. I'm sorry, that's not in here. But you're correct. It says whichever is greater.
Only the two Academy apartment buildings on 117 is the only R2 on 117.
Yes.
Okay.
And anything that's already there, of course, is grandfathered.
Anyway, yeah. That's a tore down place.
At some point.
Just
But as we see things grow over time,
for the guidelines is to not have the state come back at us to say that we altered it without permission because it's a state highway, we have to follow state guidelines.
there are no state guidelines for the, in this case, this is up to our zoning.
Can I go back?
If they would, if you build a house on there and you want to put a driveway, you got to get a permit from the state to put your driveway.
It was just, I know it took forever for those bump outs on the northwest end of town to finally get built for what was probably going to go in there. And so that's why I just wasn't sure if
So you're,
down the line.
I understand that we're talking private property versus state property.
Okay.
Yeah, the state's putting bump outs in, and if they're state owned bump outs or state property, then they have to do all the permitting, and there's always stuff when it's on a state highway, it goes through the state. But not our zoning.
Can I back up to one in R1 for the special uses of category of residential uses or second structure, single family, you know, 600 square feet? I mean, we were talking before. About convenience.
Are you still on page 3? I'm sorry.
Still on page 3, 4th one, 5th one down. Yes,
Under section 5,
section 4.
on page 2, you mean? Let's say on bottom.
Page 3. Section 4.
Okay, I've got section 5 starts at the top of page 3.
I'm using the old one, but rewritten.
It is. The
Okay.
ones I put out in front of you are what it's current.
Right, but anyway, it's in section 4. You've changed it.
There are some changes in it, because I took some stuff out because of ADU.
Okay. And. Yeah, you did. You took it special use out. Okay. 'Cause I was gonna bring it up. Let me go back to this.
Anything 80, so the team working on advisory committee, working on accessory dwelling units and detached accessory dwelling units. Anything related to that right now as that team works through those things. That's not going to be reflected on this until that team's work is done, and that can be its own addition if need be. Okay, section 6. Article 3, section 050 C1 commercial. The only thing I had in there was a typo. The word of needs to be replaced with the word or. Buffering on the bottom line, simple, just a little typo to change. That's all I had in C1.
We skipped over food retail sales, but I assume that's not,
Did I?
I don't care about it. I'm just noting.
Oh, no, I don't want to skip. Oh, I'm sorry. I made my line underneath it. I apologize. I'll go back up. So back under R2, under special uses, there's a category that says food and retail sales in R2. And I'm recommending that we delete the food and retail sales category.
Yeah, we talked about that before too. I agree with deleting that. So,
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Then I'll go back to C1 is just to replace of with an or. That's really all I had in C1. In section 7. So Article 3, section 060, C2 commercial district. The amendments are under special uses, there's a category of automobile, truck, motorcycle, dealer, service and repair. And I'd like to change that to and change the way the order of it too, but say dealers and service and repair of automobile, truck, heavy truck, watercraft, golf cart, ATV and recreational vehicles and motorcycles. What the ordinance says right now is the building commissioner, if something's close to something else on here, that it, okay, so if the way it's written right now, it doesn't say repair boats. So is repair boats the same as repairing a car? I know, it could be, maybe not. So I wanted to clarify that. So it left less up to the discretion of the building commissioner, and it was just, here's what you can and can't do.
So this is getting into the weeds, but, it's anything motorized that moves. So like, it's getting into the weeds, but like if we get somebody who realizes that they get real handy at fixing, mobile wheelchairs or scooters.
Lawnmowers.
Lawnmower.
Yeah.
But C2,
So it's commercial, but when I was trying to broaden up that category quite a bit. Yeah, it's commercial too. Should be able to do all that stuff, but it wasn't really specified in there. And then under the category of under this new category that would be written, it says everything specific to automobiles, mobile home, recreational vehicle, and truck. We cover most of that in this other part that I put up here. So I'm proposing detail these bullet points here and replace them with the bullet points on the right, in the right column. So it's kind of broad to cover all those things, all the above.
so you're talking about accessory sales to all these things listed, or
Yeah, all those things in the right, replace the things in the left column with the right column.
I mean, one says automobile accessory, you're just saying all accessories.
Do I just sell automobile parts and you can sell motorcycle parts or golf cart?
Sure, on your golf cart.
That was my thought behind that, is to make it more clear. Now move to section 8. Article 3, section 150, which is the zoning district standards. And there's tables there. And table 3-B distance standards, amend that on the table to what it says up front, from the 25 feet to the 15 feet for front and rear yard. I don't have those tables in here right now, but again, this is just to go over it right now, right? Change all the tables. And then also there's a citation in that same section that says, citation 1, measured from the road or street right of way on a lake, the front yard is the road or the lakeside. It doesn't read very well.
No.
My proposal is to write measured. I didn't highlight it, but number 1, measured from the road or street right of way on a lake, the front yard is the lakeside. And then citation 2, delete the misspelled word property and replace with correctly spelled property.
So about front yards, didn't you say a second ago that there were a few of them which did have the front yard as
That was 7. On 7.
on 117, right?
Yeah.
So there are a few properties that are in L1 that aren't on the lake.
This is on,
This says on
so
the
you
lake.
got, like, you could basically, if you have,
Oh, it says on the lake, yes, I'm sorry.
yeah, if you have lakefront, your front yard is.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
No, good. Ask questions. Make sure it's clear,
This
please.
is on your- Lake River.
But like Jim Peterson's house is on the wrong side of the road to count for this. Yeah, got it.
So, and then in section, it's still in Article 3, section 160, zoning district standards. In Part A, setback requirements. 1, height modification and this is one that I think is worth talking about, and I know we have talked about it, but
Yeah.
it's currently says church spires, belfries, domes, silos, water towers, television, and radio towers for personal use may be erected above the height limit specific for the section. And I have replaced it with church spires, belfries. I put in chimneys, vents in here. Silos, water towers, television, radio towers for personal use may be erected above the height limits. So the reasoning behind this is to start with, when somebody builds a house, we count the total height of the house. Where basically what I'm saying in this is, we need to count to the peak of the roof, and sometimes something's going to go higher. That's what this would ultimately mean, is we're not going the overall total height of the structure. We're going to, it's measured at 35 feet, then it's to the peak of the roof.
The only thing I'd say for personal use. Well, clarify that television, radio tower sites.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if there's any thoughts on that discussion.
We've already got in our solar idea for specialists that it won't be above the code height.
So it can be 5 feet above, and state code has a lot to do with that too. And same thing with we really can't restrict like certain antenna heights, because it's
Right.
already in the state code that
As
we
far
can't
as
restrict
your-
that.
Your solar panels on your roof, it's not listed on here, but
It's in our solar ordinance. It's in our solar ordinance.
Okay, that's what.
It's already covered in the solar ordinance. So yes. And I'm gonna note, I've come across this several times with contractors, several times. And I agree with them on this.
Now, we've had.
I mean, even a vent, you got a vent you want to stick up out of your roof, and now you got your whole house has to be shorter just to put a vent on it.
Well, sometimes your vent height for your, has to be a certain height.
Above the peak.
Depends on where it's located in the house, it could be prior to that.
I don't see where that's gonna make huge differences in any of the structures,
No.
but it will be good for the
Yeah.
contractors
I
to
know
build.
we've had, in the past, we've had different members with different thoughts on that. And this would clarify that.
I think it also legalize a practice. Like, okay, final inspection. Now you put the little decorative thing on top. Like,
You could very, very well be correct on that.
put on.
Mhm. Okay, and on the bottom, in part A3, average setbacks along road or street frontages. It says delete where the building commissioner has determined that an average front yard setback line has been established prior to the adoption of this ordinance. The minimum front yard setback shall be that established average front yard setback, or 10 feet, whichever is greater. And I propose to change, I wish it was on the stage, but I propose to change that with
Page 5.
on page 5, right on top. Where the building commissioner has determined that an average front yard setback line has been established prior to the adoption of this ordinance. The minimum front yard setback shall be that established average front yard setback established by the building commissioner. At the building commissioner's discretion, this may also apply to a second frontage. So what I'm saying is, this says we don't have to necessarily stop at 10 feet. If the average of that whole street in town, some of those could be 6 feet. If you go down and look at the road between the house and the sidewalk, that's saying that that average can be used without having to take it to the BZA. And we had nothing for second frontages, so a house built on a corner, to me, it should be applicable, not just one side, but if you're built on a corner and have two frontages, it should be applicable, that same thing to both frontages on the house. And that's where I was going with this.
Second frontage.
Yep, and This will also eliminate a couple cases a year from the BZA. Because there's a certain point where if somebody has wanted an 8-foot front yard setback, and I just can't do that, even though it's perfectly in line with all the other houses on average. So when I do this, I average most of the houses I can up and down the street, how far they are away.
Would this open up those where the builders could decide which one is actually the front and the back and the side? The rear yard as far as side yard? Do we open?
That's a good question, and I'll answer that when we get to definitions.
Okay.
It's in the definition now. I'm glad you asked that, but I put a definition in just specifically for that,
Okay.
so you know what the front yard is. I've been going by something consistently, so I thought it might as well just be in the definitions. But good question. And then there's the next section. In Part A, setback requirements. Basically, it's paragraph 4. I'm proposing to delete the entire paragraph. So go back. So we're still in section 010 of Article 3. And this section, and I'll explain why I say this too. For buffer setbacks, a 30-foot, and this is applicable in A1. So a 30-foot buffer setback from all property lines shall be provided in an A1 zoning district. A, there shall be no gardens, flowers, trees, landscaping, or other vegetative material deemed by the building commissioner which restrict the normal ergonomic practices of crop or horticulture production. I had to look that up. So ergonomics is not what your building commissioner does. It's those of you that did agriculture in Purdue or whatever. So
Agronomics.
agronomics, sorry. There you go.
Yeah.
The next part of it says the buffer setback shall not apply to crop or horticulture production or forestry. And then C, the buffer setback shall not be required when the property adjoining the property line is 5 acres or less in area. I'm gonna speak for me and say, I don't know how I'll figure that out.
I mean, I don't know why it's in there to begin with.
I don't know what.
I don't either, honestly.
I mean, the intent is, yeah.
I'm seeing some puzzled faces that are reading this.
That's right. I mean, no, it's just in the, kind of sounds like you could grow corn, but you couldn't grow flowers.
It does, yes.
Presumably, you can't allow flower growing to interfere with corn growing, is what it seems.
You can't do both.
You can't.
Okay.
I understand there's more money in corn, but
Yeah.
For your main flower.
yeah, well, that's, yeah.
So that's why I proposed it. Let's just get rid of this section.
I would think the farm could take that.
Do,
I don't know if anybody has actually think about it.
I was gonna say, do we have anybody who might know what it meant when we wrote it or when it was written?
It's way before my time.
Well, there we go.
Everybody else here.
I can't answer that except what my thought would be that it was copied and pasted from what this
something
was
else.
done for Marshall County.
That's a very.
Quite likely.
Probably.
Okay. Good, I'm glad everybody else had the same expression as I did when I wrote it. Then section 10, the Culver zoning ordinance, Article 6, development standards, section 010, accessory structures and uses. In section B, where permitted, delete accessory uses, buildings and structures shall be permitted in all districts, provided that the primary use, which is supported by the accessory use building or structure, is a permitted use within that district to which a lot is zoned. Excuse me, and replace with accessory uses, buildings and structures shall be permitted in all districts unless otherwise specified in a given district. The use for accessory structure must be a permitted use in the district to which a parcel lot is zoned. My intent there is just to simplify the language. In section D, development standards, delete the sentence, accessory structure shall not exceed 16 feet in height unless specifically permitted in a given district. And replace this with accessory structure shall not exceed 16 feet in height unless specifically permitted in a given district. Accessory structure height is measured from grade to the peak of the roof. I get asked that so many times. I just want to put it right in here.
So essentially you would,
Correct. Which a lot of times is kind of nice when it lines up with the house, when they put those on. It looks better. And I highlighted 16 feet because we discussed that.
Yeah.
Never really came up with anything on that, except I just want to highlight and say we discussed it, but we didn't have anything for sure on that. So without comment, I certainly just left it as is. Okay, in section D, development standards, delete the sentence, in a side yard area abutting a street, an accessory structure shall maintain a minimum setback from the right-of-way line equal to 1/2 the distance required for the principal structure unless otherwise provided for within a given district. And I suggest replacing that with in a side yard area abutting a street, an accessory structure shall maintain a minimum setback from the property line of 10 feet unless otherwise provided for. So in most cases, it's 10 feet right now, but not in all cases.
It says in a side yard area abutting the street.
Mhm.
We got that at 50 feet right now, for its setback, but we want 10 feet. On accessory structure.
In S1 only.
Okay.
So. Okay. Any thoughts on that? Okay. Didn't hear anything.
So which section are we actually in right now? We're on.
We're in Articles.
No, I mean, like, are we in?
We're still in Article 6. So we're in the development standards of the book.
Yeah, development standards, but this is pertaining to the side yard setback for residential with an accessory structure or any accessory structure.
So this is general under accessory structures.
Okay.
Unless provided for, so instance, in S1 provided for 15 feet.
Okay.
So that won't change that because it's already provided for in another district
Okay.
in that setting. In section 11, the Culver zoning ordinance, still in Article 6, section 020. Delete the sentence, all standards pertaining to the building or replacement of structures shall be regulated by ordinance 2009-002 Building Code of Culver, Indiana. And we'll turn the page. And I'll read it and then I'll explain it. Change that to all standards pertaining to the building or replacement of structures shall be regulated by Indiana State Building Code and consideration of ordinance 2009-002 Building Code of Culver. The county's inspecting our buildings, and the county inspector it does everything but Plymouth and Plymouth's 2-mile zoning. So everything the county inspector's doing is the Indiana State Building Code, and they're not looking at our ordinance. So in some cases, they need to consider our ordinance, which 90% of it needs to be gone anyhow. It's not right. So that's why I put this in here to add Indiana State Building Code and consider our code. No matter what happens, we'll have to change this number, of course, we'll have to change this number if our building code gets updated or when.
But as far as by Indiana State Building Code and our ordinances, we can be more strict, but we can't be more lenient to the state, correct?
Yes, you are correct. I'll go to section 12 on this. And then we're in Article 6, Development Standards, Section 050, Erosion Control Standards. Under H, Permit Applications. So before I read this, I'm going to tell you, all the permits go through the county. I have review, but everything's going through the county. And a lot of times they're going to approve stuff. Erosion control plan and permit issuance. Delete the sentence, no person shall begin a land disturbing activity subject to this chapter without receiving an erosion control permit and paying a fee for such permit as set forth on the attached Schedule A, erosion permit fees and noncompliance penalties. By submitting an application, the applicant is agreeing that the building commissioner has been given permission to enter the site to obtain information required for review of the erosion control plan. I'm suggesting to replace that with no person shall begin a land disturbing activity subject to this chapter without submitting an erosion control plan through the permitting process. By submitting an application, the applicant is agreeing that the building commissioner has been given permission to enter the site to obtain information required for review of the erosion control plan. So that just is saying that we don't have a separate fee, and those aren't issued through town, they go through the county site. So that clarifies that. And underneath the next section, it's going to be something similar, where it says, starts with H, permit application, erosion control plan, and permit issuance. Delete the section 2, review of erosion control plan. The building commissioner shall promptly review the application and erosion control plan to determine whether the requirements of this chapter have been met. If the conditions are met, the building commissioner shall approve the plan, inform the applicant, and issue a permit. If the conditions are not met, the building commissioner shall inform the applicant and either may require additional information or may just approve the plan. If the requested additional information is submitted, the building commissioner shall again determine whether the plan meets the request of this chapter. If the plan is disapproved, the building commissioner shall inform the applicant, giving reasons for disapproval. I suggest replacing it with review of erosion control plan. The building commissioner or Marshall County Planning shall promptly review the application and erosion control plan, determine whether the requirements of this chapter have been met. If the conditions are met, the building commissioner or Marshall County Planning shall approve the plan, inform the applicant, and issue an improvement location permit. If the conditions are not met, the building commissioner or Marshall County Planning shall inform the applicant and either may require additional information or may disapprove the plan. If the requested additional information is submitted, the building commissioner or Marshall County Planning shall again determine whether the plan meets the requirements of this chapter. If the plan is disapproved, the building commissioner or Marshall County Planning shall inform the applicant, giving the reasons for disapproval. So again, it just corrects for what the actual process is, right? Section 13, the Culver zoning ordinance, Article 6, Development Standards, Section 090, individual manufactured home. Temporary use shall be amended by making the following specific amendments. Add paragraph number 4, manufactured and mobile homes older than 10 years from the date of manufacture shall not be placed. That's something new. I didn't know what y'all think of that, but it makes sure that they're up to current codes.
Is that why it's just 10 years ago to change something about?
They change things often, but the answer is, yeah, and there's a big difference with some of them. I mean, there's still some out there that are in the 70s. So the question would be, if a mobile home built in 1985, do we want somebody to pull it over here and put it somewhere?
But if it's already here,
We can't, yeah,
you
it's
can't make it.
right. That's already grandfathered in,
Right.
but they can't move one and set one in that's more than 10 years old.
Do those have to go through any kind of inspection when they get placed?
Yeah,
Just connections.
Right.
You just have to make sure the electric's connected, the water and sewer connected. Basically, mobile homes are basically just pull them in and hook them up. Not they're great big campers.
You can't. take the whole- Expect.
Yeah, you can still see it's little. So,
That's,
wrong.
judgment, right, yeah, look, yeah.
I know on manufactured homes. I know, I used to work for them. But I know even some of the electrical codes are a little bit more lenient than our state codes, the electrical codes, in each county, whatever. So I don't know about how that,
But we'll still go by state code and what state code says for that.
because I mean.
They've
I think
updated
10
everything.
years- 10 years, most of them been updated.
I think like in the late seventies, eighties, they were using aluminum wiring, which is a problem. So things change over time.
A lot of it, more geo. I see receptacle was, so.
Okay, I'm on page 7 now, and top of section 14. Again, in Article 6 now, section 100, this is clarify, key lock boxes shall be amended by making the following change. Delete the following, the following structure shall be equipped with a key lock box at or near its main entrance and replaced with the following structure shall be equipped with a Knox box brand key lock box at or near its main entrance, which is what our fire department has keys and uses. That's what we've standardized for this community and most communities, in fact.
So that's the reason we're going with a particular brand.
That's been in place for a long time.
Because otherwise we'd have to have a lot of specialized keys, a lot of. It really.
As long as you guys have a standard, I mean,
Yeah.
And it's also for places you need to get in that has like gas. Stations. Like you don't have a Knox spot or a Knox with feet.
Or even commercial. A lot of
Commercials now. Any new commercial has to go.
And it's in our ordinance. It's just, this is, and that's code, but it's also our ordinance, but we want to specify which one.
It's just one of those things that if this goes through, I mean, it's for only new buildings, right? Or you're gonna have to have everybody upgrade to a Knox box. That hasn't already worked.
Well,
Have to, I don't know, but we've definitely been. trying.
Yeah.
Not have to, but
in the past though, it hasn't there been different brands installed on some of these rather than the box?
Not in our area, for all spots.
Right.
I think Knox boxes are a vast majority of the market for
Well,
these
I know
things.
it seems to be one for further.
So,
I know there's been issues for somebody who used a different kind, but the issue they had a key for that.
the only other comment I'll make on this is for anybody that listens, if even if you're a homeowner, a Knox box is a good idea. If there's an emergency in your house and it turns out and the fire department breaks your door down, you have to fix it. If they have a Knox box there, they can get access to your house or business, and they don't have to break your door in and have you buy a new door. Okay, section 15, the Culver zoning ordinance, article 6, section 150, pools private. So delete the sentence, a private pool shall be permitted in the side yard and rear yards of all districts, and the following regulations shall apply, and replace with a private pool shall be permitted only in the side and rear yards of all districts, and the following regulations shall apply. So adding the word only. We recently had something in an attorney.
Right, we discussed this.
And an attorney had something to say about, well, it doesn't say only. So anyhow, that's there for that reason. So
What is the definition size of the pool?
Private pool,
what's the definition? There's a state definition for pools. I don't think it's in our ordinance. I want to say it's something over 300 gallons, but I can't
That's
say
kind
for
of where I'm
certain.
going. It's like,
I can't say for certain what it is. It's based on gallons.
So I don't, this even applies to, but think about L1 if you're on the lake. I'm not sure why you have a pool. Maybe you want one. Would,
they have.
I mean, in L1, would it,
Oh, a lot of people don't like that in the front yard. We had that come up for a variance and the people withdrew it
Okay.
to put a pool in their front yard. It brought in a lot of neighbors.
And L1 on play.
Uh-huh.
East side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yes. So
an interesting problem.
that's one of the reasons why this is in here. For sake of time, I won't go into it, but we have somebody who's
Okay.
gonna put a pool in their side yard. Section 16. The Culver zoning ordinance, Article 6, Section 170, public campgrounds recreational. Amended to say, add section notation 170. So all section 16, it says where section 170 is, it's 2 paragraphs into the part. They need to move this where it says section 170. So where it identifies it in there, it's just in the wrong spot. It's just for them to put it in the right spot.
So you just move it to the correct spot.
Yes.
Okay.
Section 17, Article 6, 190, sign regulations. Delete, no sign shall be placed on private property without the written consent of the owner or agent thereof. Proof of such consent must be filed with the building commissioner. That's never happened. So I suggest replacing that. No sign shall be placed on private property without the owner's consent. The building commissioner may request proof of that consent if there was ever a challenge to it. And which one?
And we still have the time limit of
Oh,
they
thank
can be on certain signs. Still be in there.
A time limit. I'd have to go back to sign regulations and look for
Sign
time limits.
regulations.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Sign regulation for the biggest problem. Sorry, but
That's section 17. Oh, I just did that. That's the signs. 18. Article 6, section 270, flood hazards shall be amended by making the following change. Delete the building commissioner, AKA building official, shall implement this ordinance and hereafter be referred to as the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator for the town of Culver is appointed to review all the zoning administrator for the town of Culver. So, that's why I read it twice, because it wrote it twice in here. This is to take the extra sentence out. That's this whole section is take the extra sentence out. That's another one that's fun to read. Section 19, Article 6, 270, flood hazards. C, improvement location permit. Delete, no person, firm, corporation, or government body not exempted by state law shall commence any development in the SFHA without first obtaining an improvement location permit, and replace with no person, firm, corporation, or government body not exempted by state law shall commence any development in the SFHA without first obtaining an improvement location permit from the building commissioners through the Marshall County Plan Director, which is what the process is. In section 20, underneath that, add a new section. So this is at the end of Article 6. Building over or across parcel lot lines. Building over parcel or lot lines is not allowed due to Culver zoning ordinance setback requirements. These regulations dictate the minimum distances buildings or structure must be from the boundary of a parcel/lot of land. This ordinance is also intended to prevent disputes in the event of a tax sale. So right now, it's been our practice not to allow anybody to build over property lines, lot lines within a parcel. This just makes it formal, because we did have an attorney attend a meeting and say it doesn't say anywhere with that is a rule. So since that's been our practice, I decided to just put it in.
which we still have some places that structures were built over property lines.
Yeah, included, it used to be law, because my house covers 3 lots, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it started being the practice sometime, but it wasn't
Right.
in 1954.
So with the county at Lake of the Woods, there was a house built. This is the main reason this is in here. there was a house built across 3 parcels. They didn't pay taxes on one of those parcels. And it actually went for tax sale. Somebody bought it and then and didn't get redeemed. So then there was a big legal dispute.
Because they, one of the
I'm
lots.
not
that-
kidding.
You got it.
So that's a big reason why this is in here, because we don't want that.
So we know that's gonna happen. And it has. So.
So there is in Marshall County, it's happened. So,
There's a reason that.
Exactly.
Yes.
okay.
Written.
So in section 21 will allow you to make the changes rather than us.
Yes. So, yes, exactly. Well, I'll explain that too, but delete, section, Article 10, section 050, powers and duties of Plan Commission to be amended to delete, approve or deny preliminary plats, replats, and the vacation of plats and subdivisions, and replace it with approve or deny preliminary plats, replats, and the vacation of plats of subdivisions. The building commissioner is authorized to approve applications for plats and replats for the purpose of joining lots within a parcel or combining adjacent parcels. That will reduce the caseload for this
Wouldn't
board.
have to come here to do exactly what needs to be done.
And these have always been referred to as no brainers. So,
Next building commissioner come back, so I don't want to do that.
We'll say, no, we're not changing.
yeah, that's this body has that.
How often are we vacating the plats of subdivisions?
Are you vacating plats of subdivisions?
Yeah,
The-
that's an added section.
It's in there, but we haven't done a complete plat. I'm not recalling vacating a subdivision
That's why I
plat.
wasn't sure. I understand why you want.
There's different ways to look at this. If you're talking like a whole housing subdivision
Mhm.
versus there's also subdivisions, so like one lot into 3 lots type subdivision.
There's also some planning to think of. Like you look at the west side of the Academy property. Way back in the dark ages, it must have been laid out to do their little vacation cottages.
Oh, there were.
I mean,
There were houses
Yeah.
in there. I mean, I remember seeing them put the houses, carry them out.
you pull it up on GIS. It's a zillion different.
There's a ton of messy
Yeah.
lot lines and some parcel lines too.
A lot of the houses on West Terrace were moved there.
Okay, so that's the main part of it. Now I'm gonna jump into definitions that I'd like to see added. First one is abandoned. This is gonna play into some other changes that happen in the future, but I want to have this in here ahead of time. Refers to any property or any property, real or personal, which is unattended and either open or unsecured, so admittance may be gained without damaging any portion of the property, or which evidence indicates that, I'm spelling there, that no person is presently in possession, disconnected utilities, accumulated debris, uncleanliness, disrepair, and in the case of Chattel's location. I had to look that word up.
Means if you leave junk in your front yard,
He's got the best answer to it.
if you leave junk in your front yard, that is an indicia that there might be something in the house that you might not be in possession of the housing, in occupation house.
Junk. Length of time or any particular state of mind of the owner or person entitled to possession is not conclusive in determining that property is abandoned. So this isn't I didn't write this. I plagiarized this.
You borrowed it.
Length of time. Any particular state of mind of the owner? What's that mean?
They think they own it and they don't.
Oh, okay. So they have to have a deed or. Okay,
Trust me, when hopefully the ordinances down the road get a little better for abandoned properties, blighted properties, and our ordinances
Yeah.
are better and stronger there. This will be nice to have this definition already in there, and we'll be able to use it in the meantime, I think also.
there's something that's been put over to an estate,
Those,
that be anything particular that Nikki does.
those, if it's in a state, it's owned and it's, and if somebody's maintaining it. But footprint, that's something Barry said. A building footprint is the border of a building drawn along the exterior walls to create a polygon, represent the total area of the building.
That needs a definition.
That's a definition of a footprint.
Right, I was just surprised at least.
Well, that's what we were discussing earlier, is if that concrete porch is not now footprint.
Yeah, or do you count the garage if it's attached? So,
Well,
But it doesn't,
we don't want to assume.
okay.
You have said total area.
Fair
But I mean, this is actually just a building. I'm not talking about steps coming out.
That counts as
Just a
square footage.
building.
That counts as. It's not permeable.
The steps do count towards setbacks in the building.
Like,
And there,
Right.
I don't know
But I
how
mean,
they did the
far as being
condos
able to-
over.
So-
but Yeah,
it's a polygon. You draw a line all the way around it, and that would include the steps.
Right.
And where that line connects, you have, when it connects again, you have a polygon.
That's his point, that the steps are outside the exterior wall of the building. Yeah, the exterior wall and the steps are outside the exterior wall.
but they count.
Right, now, that's what, but I think that's what Barry's getting at, that the language doesn't quite include steps the way we all think it should.
So how do you want me to include that? I think it's worthy of clarifying that. Steps are or not. It's kind of what I'm hearing. I'm okay with that. But you'll let me know what you'd like.
Matters in terms of setback, I'm just not sure how much it would matter. For a footprint. Or calculating what a minimum is or something. I don't have any strong feelings, but
Generally.
I don't know either.
I mean, I know you're talking about footprint. And we use footprint as an example of what you can build something back on the footprint. But at the same time, before somebody does whatever, they can build whatever they want inside of it, and outside of it, tear it down with the back. In other words, they've got room, because you got a footprint. And if there was something that was actually saying without a foundation built, whatever. Start by the footprint by foundation.
I think this clarifies that. It's the border of the building. If you use foundation, I would argue if you use foundation, you could lose space because your siding hangs out past your foundation.
The overhang still hangs over. We've got the overhangs that cover that in the ordinance.
So I think I like this in that, you know,
I mean, our
There's-
setbacks are still required according to whatever.
right,
You-
there's two different things.
Yeah.
Setback versus footprint.
Mhm.
And the overhang, that's not necessarily.
I'll take that under advisement and I'll make a notation somewhere on it. So it clarifies that. Institutional. Specifically for Culver Educational Foundation, educational campus buildings. To include dormitories, buildings for religious purposes and educational buildings. We kind of discussed that previously.
I think I might suggest it's like, say, educational. And there are no plans I know of, but
That's the very rowing center I was thinking of.
yeah,
What's that?
Okay,
probably the rowing center would exceed it, but I don't know. Maybe it did.
it's certainly good to have in here, I think. Yes.
Do we have, under the institutional, I mean, we're talking public schools, those academy, or
So by saying this, we're not creating, this isn't used at this time to create a new zoning district for institutional. It's strictly going to go in, it's only time it's applicable in S1, which is what most of Culver Educational Foundation is on their actual school buildings, if you will. Otherwise, it doesn't, it's what it's for. It's just S1 specifically for them. I don't think it needs to be applicable to the schools where they're already allowed in uses. And most zoning districts already allow that, allows for schools.
But I mean,
Public.
if you've got height setbacks or changing height restrictions on institutional, you're raising it for the academy, you're not raising it for the academy building that they're on Mill Street, or not on Mill Street.
It's just, it's that, because that's not zoned S1. That's not zoned S1, so it won't be applicable.
But you're still gonna use it under institution or no?
No, it's not S1. The only time that this term will show is in underneath S1. For total building, under total building height institutional, under S1.
Okay, so anything like on academy, going toward the academy, anything from the town limits going forward,
That's not S1.
or that's not this one,
Almost all of that's R1.
so the housing and stuff still fall under institutional?
No. It says in here, it's specifically for cover educational campus buildings.
They're gonna make sure the campus building, not just what the academy owns, what's institutional. I just want to just make sure it's clear.
Yep, I tried to be specific with that.
Yeah, so that's the educational campus buildings.
Yeah.
Not the other real estate.
Okay. The last page. You can see Joel's just excited. Okay, non-conforming lot parcel. Simply fails to conform to the requirement of the zoning district in which it is located. The different zoning districts have different lot sizes or parcel sizes. A nuisance building includes structures with appearances detract from the neighborhood, such as properties that are not properly maintained, structures covered with graffiti or vacant buildings, as well as properties that present safety issues, such as fire damaged buildings or structures that remain partially built or partially demolished. Nuisance real property is, and this comes from Indiana Code 32-30-6-6, not something made up. That's the actual state code for it.
See, I just had one thought. In this definition, you introduced the term vacant buildings. Would it be better to say abandoned buildings, since we now got a prior definition of what an abandoned building is? Because vacant could just be, I mean, we have some vacant storefronts on Main Street.
It could be gone.
Yeah, but they're not abandoned.
We can add that, and I think it'll still be in the spirit of state code, absolutely.
Okay.
Some of these are sensitive, and I want to make sure that it's totally defensible for us. And that's why, it's particularly this one, I wanted to make sure I quoted the state code so people have a place to look that up.
When you say remain partially built or partially demolished, and that requires to remain partially, you say remain partially built. Is that same thing as being abandoned?
Well,
Or is it somebody that?
I would assume somebody.
You can't abandon something that nobody ever lived in.
Okay.
I mean, you can abandon the property, I suppose, or I suppose you could. I don't think that's the intent of this.
Remain
And
partially built.
Again, this is right out of, this is verbatim state code.
Permit ran out, they didn't use it, it's already partially built. Need to get another permit, go forward.
So in these definitions that comes from state code, we would ask our attorney, there's probably already case law for this. And that would be his job to define that case law and make sure it's in existence. And remember, once everybody likes this, it's got to go to the attorney before it even goes up for any kind of public hearing on it.
I will say that the definition of abandoned on page 8 certainly implies that you're already living there and stop doing so, as opposed to you never finished building in the first place. Disconnected utilities, as opposed to utilities never connected, and so on. So the language seems to suggest that abandoned means you're already in it.
I'm just wondering, or something being partially built, and it's still built right, but it's not finished.
Not finished, yeah.
Somebody else could buy the property, finish the house, but you're gonna tear it down. or somebody else does that. I mean, I'm not saying agree, disagree here, I'm just saying circumstances that might come up.
The circumstances come up, then the person send a letter and they have 15 days to reply with what they plan to do and give a written plan. And if it's a written plan, hey, I've got this building for sale, I need any
30
time to
days,
sell it,
60 days or whatever.
then to me, that's reasonable and I would
Yeah.
accept that.
I mean, think about the old city tap.
Yeah.
Next definition, oh, I'm sorry.
Covering graffiti, do we have a particular definition of what people classify as graffiti?
Well, that could be, yeah.
Versus arts, yeah, or, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to go with, in this case, I don't necessarily want to put a definition here for it, but I would go with whatever the state has already determined is graffiti. I'd have to go look and see what they said. Again, I would refer back to this Indiana code and have our lawyer to give us that answer. If it came up.
But I know that it's, in some places, it
It
was considered graffiti, whatever, and one says, well, if this is a cultural thing, if we could not consider it.
So, yeah, I would leave that for our attorney.
I'm thinking that our attorney's probably gonna say, well, you gotta read it in context though.
Yeah.
They're not all along with not properly maintained, vacant or abandoned. You know?
Yeah.
As opposed to the butterfly on the side or Lake Max environmental.
So patio, and these definitions, this definition I also borrowed. A patio, a paved outdoor area with no roof adjoining a dwelling. That's a common one. I looked at several different places for that.
So I have a question there.
Yeah.
Paved versus hard surface. So suppose instead of using pavers or concrete, I use Trex.
Yeah.
Is that something else? Is that then considered a deck? It's like ground level.
That's like pavers is, yeah, I get that. I made a note on here.
Would it necessarily have to adjoin?
No joining.
With no roof adjoining, that's just it's great questions and I like it.
Okay.
So you have to kind of tell me.
Well, I mean, say no
Yeah,
roof,
yeah,
but
We may not even need this one in here.
step out the back door and there's 5 feet of grass. They're like, you know.
Yeah.
Of all these definitions, this is one
Picnic tables.
that if you don't think we even need it, I'm happy to scratch it. I want
I
to.
don't know, we don't. I was just thinking about people arguing like, well, it's not patio because it's da, da, da.
And they kind of that look out there, put a roof on it. They don't want that porch from the patio.
I'll make some adjustments to this. I agree that it requires more specificity. Okay, rear yard, Barry.
There we go.
It's the opposite of the front door address side of the dwelling.
Sold.
That's what we were pushing for. Want that address established.
Replat.
Okay.
Everybody good with rear yard?
Address.
Wait a minute. Rear yard, not every house in town has its front door address on the street that it faces.
Yeah.
In fact, the building we're sitting in does not have its address on the street that it faces. That's an easy example.
When it was built.
Yeah, which when it was built, right? But the house at the opposite end of this block has an address on Lakeshore Drive, and it has always faced onto onto Plymouth Street. You look at the portion of Plymouth Street. So there are a few contrary examples that are probably. I'm not sure there's a way to fix that, but there are. It's a funny little town.
Let me work on that one. You're absolutely right.
Which mine is that way too. That means I've got like 5 feet of backyard. Because the way my front door is on marble, that's centers.
Yeah, and how to think about how
But you're
to
not by the
affect
front door, like the
corner
back.
lots.
Some
People would say my house faces Academy Road, but the address is North Shore Lane, and that's where.
And that's it.
Yeah,
Trying to,
yeah.
the tenant is just trying to make sure we understand from corner lot.
Yeah.
Or some, there, you got a couple houses that are actually on three frontages.
Yeah, right. True.
Let me reconsider that one then, because I think it's a great point. and I want it to be clear. And replat, is a preliminary or final plat for all or part of any block or blocks of a previously platted subdivision or parcels. This includes combining parcels and combining lots within a parcel. That first part of that sentence is totally from the state. Second part I put in there just for our clarification. Short-term rental, which I know came up, the rental of various dwelling units, single-family homes, units in multifamily dwellings, condominiums, cooperatives, or timeshares for periods less than 30 consecutive days at a time through a short-term rental platform. And that's taken right from Indiana code also.
You just have a typo in the citation to Indiana code. It's 36-1-24-6. You got an extra 7.
And we want to make sure we covered everything. Okay, I'll clarify.
I'm gonna look it up. You can find that.
I'll clarify that. Thank you. Unimproved land.
I'm sorry, going back to short. Does it have to be through a plat?
This is, I leave that up to you. This is through Indiana code.
Because
So that's where I took this from.
there are some houses that kind of operate more like a online bed and breakfast, but they don't go necessarily through an Airbnb. A website, they take phone calls, then have an online calendar, but you have a platform, it's just your own.
But there'd still be periods less than 30 days.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just that if I meet Chester in the street and do a handshake deal to rent his house for 20 days,
Yeah.
is that a short-term rental?
But short-term rental, I mean, that doesn't affect anybody. It's got full-time rental.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it's not gonna be holding anybody to a short time.
right. It's the state seems to have in mind that you'll always do it through a computer service, which you,
Yeah.
I take to mean you wouldn't necessarily.
If a situation arises, then they find a loophole because they didn't do it online, they talked about it online, but, or like in text message, but let's.
But this is just
Shake
a
the deal.
definition.
This is happening like a lot of houses in town already.
Oh, yeah.
So just
Oh, yeah,
the,
I know
the
exactly.
intent of this is just to
It's-
clear it up. So we just, basically, I just want to say, yeah, we know what's going on and it's okay. Because there's been a lot of, I've heard different discussion on and off since I've been here about that and zoning. And so this just kind of, my intent was just to kind of clear that
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, basically what the statute says, I was just looking to see, it has a definition, but I'm not sure how to use it that. That counties, municipalities can't restrict less than 30 days.
That makes sense.
Thank you. Good to have a lawyer in there. Okay.
Oh, yeah. You gotta have a lawyer look at this.
Unimproved land. Land that lacks certain basic services such as electricity, telephone, street access, or water utilities. Really just a basic one, but again, taken from the online from the definition. So, and a written commitment. We refer to written commitments in our ordinances when it comes to like for variances. So it refers to a formal document that outlines the terms and conditions of an agreement between parties. It serves as a written promise that one party will fulfill specific obligations or duties as agreed upon. Since we referred to it, I wanted to make sure that I, along with everybody else, certainly knew what we meant by written commitment. Now,
Give me an example on that.
BVA for written commitment, somebody wants a variance to, well, we had one, put a porch on, but you can never enclose the porch because that would create a visibility problem for the neighbor.
That's a bit. Part two. You can go back and look. Make sure
And
everything-
that's done recorded with the property and it'll cross-reference the deed of the property. Now I have one more thing I wanted to ask. And I want to throw this out there. I didn't put it in here. But I know it's came up. I know people in town don't like it much. We've had 2 post-frame construction homes built in town, barn dominiums. Pole barns turned into houses or built as houses. A lot of municipalities don't allow that. There's specific language for that to avoid that. Post-frame construction and allow for continuous foundations and some other things on that. I'd like to make sure we don't have post-frame construction because it just doesn't go with the town, doesn't look right in town. Just my thought, that's just me. But that's why I didn't write it down here. I don't know what everybody else thinks or what you'd like to see. If you're okay with that as an alternative form of housing, they don't sell for any, they're not selling any cheaper when they get done with them. They still sell for a pretty hefty price tag, but
In the same 750, 750.
So with the,
Thanks.
with the blue house across from the hardware store fall into this category?
I would say.
Yeah,
it does. Well, I don't know how it's constructed.
it's cold.
I don't know if
Well,
it's,
it's built with steel, it's not built with bolts, but the
so it's
stylistically though, it seems to be.
Right, so it's,
post frame means it's got post in the ground,
right, not necessarily wood.
just like a pole barn. You put the post in the ground and build up, then pour your cement for.
Whether it be steel, wood, whatever.
So post frame means the frame is post in the ground.
Okay, so that one in fact has poured concrete and then steel on top of the concrete, not in the ground.
So that's not post.
That's not,
It's just.
They just decided to put metal
it just
siding on it.
may make it look ugly, yeah, right. Okay. No judgment. Just right.
Yeah, that's not an-
Nobody's arguing that. So I didn't know what you all thought of that.
And this essentially resident.
It would be in residential. It would be post-frame construction in R1, R2, L1, and S1. S1 could be up in there. I mean, S1's kind of out in the country too, so maybe not.
So for a residential structure.
Just residential.
Okay.
It would be, so if you still wanted to build a pole barn
Pole barn,
garage, you
yeah.
could do that.
Okay.
Or storage units.
Or-
Yeah.
Mhm. It would just, yes, thanks for clarifying that. It would definitely be just for a residential dwelling.
Quick curious question here on signs. Permanent or temporary? Says no sign. It has to be approved by the building commissioner.
We have a whole section of our ordinances around signs.
Yeah.
It's a few pages long at least around that.
Been a year on science.
It's pretty thorough, but I can't quote that section. It doesn't come up that often.
But it refers to that.
We've got,
In this case, I just wanted to clear up that certain signs have to actually get a building permit for.
Mhm.
For instance, if VFW put a new sign up here, not only did they have to get a variance for it, they also had to get a building permit for it.
you got signs. Lighting is, you got ordinance, follows that, but illumination. You got
Yeah.
the size of the sign on a permanent sign. It's got difference between permanent signs and, you got, people, even you can't just put an advertising sign, somebody else's yard without permission for certain ones, and not even the wording on that sign is even specific. So, I mean,
I think our sign ordinance is very
sign
thorough.
ordinance is very,
Okay.
So I'll leave post-frame construction for you to ponder on, because I'll make a couple adjustments to this. Then we'll discuss it one more time, at least. And then I can pass it to our town attorney and see what he says has to change in it.
I mean, I can see restricting it from R1, R2. But I really don't see a whole lot of restriction needed for myself, for my opinion.
I
When
would
you
go
start
L1.
to get S1 or even L1 for that matter. I would dump L1.
You know, if I build a multi-billion-dollar big house, someone built a whole market.
Sure.
Yeah, but I tell you what, you can see some of them multi-million pole barns too, that varies about it, lot of glass,
I think I just have to.
but
Let me put some information
Okay.
together. I think that's fair.
Yeah. So,
I'll put some
I think
information.
part residential, R1, R2, definitely, I would see that.
I figured there'd be some discussion and some
so I would just
curiosity around that.
say, this is an amazing piece. You did.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
definitely.
Yeah,
Very well done.
Yeah,
Very thorough.
these are things that are long overdue. You're the one that got it. So,
Right. I'm glad to see that we actually got started on a few of these issues,
Mhm.
because we've been wanting to get to this for what?
Yeah.
2 years. So,
And I have, this is the first half of the book, 1 through 6. I have 7 through 12, 13 is the definitions.
I cannot wait.
7 through 12 is actually it'd be a little easier.
I'm glad that's going to be.
It's loaded with typo topics, but so.
but I know a lot of these changes kind of haven't brought up my meetings stuff, you know, because since the comprehensive plan, we got the new comprehensive plan, we have been able to even address priorities that we go forward with now.
Yes.
And I was really glad, Kevin, you brought it up too. But
If you think anything else, let me know for 1 through 6, but
Um,
I'll clean it up with
This is, and this is an answer for maybe later, but in terms of process, and to the extent that there's like, we clean up and get clarification from our attorney, et cetera, can we do these in batches? Or do we have to have a separate motion vote on every single change to the ordinance?
Actually-
Maybe the town could, then
actually,
the board can take it in pieces.
we can actually have the pages right here for, say, what if we got 8 pages, 9 pages, whatever.
Right.
These pages here are all approved. This can be presented in the pages that we have approved to the town council, which we have in the past.
That's kind of my question.
Yeah, the amendments, these amendments,
Because we were just.
it'd be what they would do.
Yeah, but like,
And in the
35
past,
separate motions.
if
I was
we-
gonna. Right. It's basically, we give them the whole paperwork, but if they decide that they want to leave it at 25 feet. Instead of taking.
They
it
will
back.
send it back to us.
We could forward package.
Yeah.
Reckon.
Does the town attorney have to go over these changes?
Yes.
It'd be best if they would.
Before we decided, when this body is satisfied, the town attorney will look at it. And then if there are no major changes or just change a couple words,
But
then we'll do a legal notice. And then this body would vote to either favorably or unfavorably, or take no action to recommend this to the town council. Then the town council would get it, and as stated, the town council may, they'll read it first. And then they'll come back and they would either say, oh, we love it, we're gonna do a legal notice, and then they'd have 3 readings for it. Or they'll send it back and say, we'd like to see these changes. And this body can either determine to make those changes or not make those changes.
also, in the past, we have recommended town council, and usually the town council was presented with the attorney there, going over each one up as they're presented. I mean, are we gonna be paying lawyers twice for doing this?
The short answer is, I believe our lawyers more on a retainer than
I
hourly.
mean,
So he's
I mean, are
getting,
we
he's
gonna
getting
delay the
paid.
process by having the attorney go through and come back to us with change and whatever, rather than we approve it to be recommended, and then the attorney and town council have to get the vote.
I recommend before we hand it off that it's already been looked at by an attorney, so we can say it's already been looked at by the town attorney.
And you're just
Yep.
saving a lot of the stuff, because the hour or 2 hours that the attorney's gonna spend looking at it for us, when they go to town council, they're already gonna be well versed on it, so they're not gonna have the town pay them for 2 hours of research.
He's
They already
gonna
have
have
it.
to say, he's gonna tell everyone that this, or whatever. Or state that, it
Yeah,
doesn't
but
matter.
he'll already come
I
look
only
at
wanna
it.
vote.
So we don't want to vote for something that's not good.
Yeah.
So I'll clean it up and bring it back,
Okay.
Nice job.
and then we'll talk about it again.
It is kind of going back to it. I just made a note to myself in the special uses in section 5 of the R2 district,
What page are you on?
page 3.
Okay,
You skipped over and went back for deleting the category of food and retail sales.
Yep.
And in R2, isn't that basically going to be the housing over, like Cafe Max or something? Or am I think that, because I'm mixing.
no, because there is different zoning already. So that's,
It's a season.
It is.
so this is just for multifamily zoning, R2.
Ivan, you have a question?
I would just
I
say.
think that's up to-
C1, not C2.
President.
No. Thank you. That was all. As I was.
Oh, that's good.
In my head, I'm thinking multi-use, thing, I was just trying to picture with R2, what that would look like for food service, like coffee shop window out of their kitchen or something.
Selling piece out of your garage.
Okay, that was the one. Okay, I knew it sounded very familiar. and I
Yeah,
put my
we've
finger on
seen that
it.
someplace.
Not in a few
So
years.
just remember, this says retail sales. What's that?
Yeah, that's what I said.
It is.
Easier to get.
It's copy and
That's why I
paste.
should have it together.
Apparently, if we just saw it from 19
Oh,
hours every other day.
yeah, that's correct.
Thanks for
That's what it said.
Thank God for the last 30 years.
That's all I have on this.
Perfect, good. Moving along to comprehensive plan. Or that pretty much covers comprehensive plan.
Right.
Do we have any updates from the town? Town manager updates?
They're not here, so.
Nothing.
Keep rolling, Joe.
The update isn't done here, right?
Old business, new business. Anybody have any new business? Want to address old business?
Had nothing, but I can't do it.
Good.
Okay, we're gonna bring that back. All right, citizen input. Anybody in the audience wish?
My name is Barry Mark. I have Airbnb. I'm curious about the structure across from the graveyard, the kind of near the new construction project. Those are the both. Storage units, Leslie, you know what I'm talking about, the gray.
On the south side.
Executive.
Got the RV
What are
executive.
what you're talking about, the structures that cannot be, well, the residences, like gardens. And what are they? Are they, what
They're storage units.
so you cannot live, in that. Is that right?
They're zoned C2. So C2 zoning would allow somebody to stay in there, but we have an agreement with the owner that they will not.
They can spend the night over whatever, come in late, take sleep there, whatever, which they're going to do anyway, but they have to stop.
Mary, could you spell your last name and the address? you know? Okay. And what's your address?
510 School Street, Alton, that's my in-town
Okay.
address. My Airbnb is, not what I live in. He and I have this Airbnb.
Okay.
It's in the on Pine Road. Here. TV. I don't think you need that.
No, I just for the.
And there's other categories that live, work. You might want to address alley artists, live and work. And dwellings where they need large space. And I think that's worth looking at. Culture or something like that. Big space. But a lot of those, that being Chicago, all industrial type buildings that were converted to lots.
Good use for existing structures.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in many of them, you know, over the years, but, yeah, those are space, major sculpture. Don't want to prohibit that kind of thing.
I only say that, my intent is to keep the town culvert looking like town culvert. These do not look the same as the structures in town, and the existing structures, they look very different.
Mayor, if you drive south on White Street, you'll see a geodesic dome in the backyard of the yard of our last sculptor.
Well, it as time over, how long is, I mean, for how much long will the time over be exactly what it is now, you know, we have 20 years now, will it seems to be expanding. In other words, like we have a subdivision that's developing, and that's expanding.
So the population of Culver was up to like 1,500, it's dropped down to 1,100. So if they fill all these units there, that's in the dunes that they're doing, they'll probably bring it back to about where it was.
Mhm.
But a lot of those residents will not be full-time residents. We already know that too.
It's a good point.
You're talking about the size of the population, I'm talking about, I'm sure referring to, what do we want the town of Culver to look like? In that sense, I don't see why a live-work structure for a sculptor would be such a horrible thing.
I think they're building houses there, and the houses would look like a new house built anywhere in town versus a pole barn. Which is what we're-
Spaces are- Not everything is right. As I said, the definition of Culver has evolved. What is actually a town Culver to pushing outward.
Well, our zoning goes outside town, limits, to be sure. So, but I think that's why there was some discussion about, and why I said, I just need to understand more about.
Yeah.
What the ramifications would be, but also, you know, an R1 in town versus suburban outside the town limits, but still within our zoning. Yeah, sure, why not? So,
Actually, within city limits.
I mean, if you know, some of these small kind of vacation areas have artists living because they can work independently off of the 9-5 grid of the structure. The same to want to prohibit those people living here. And having their studios, or their, you know, you have these kind of artsy vacation towns. We lived in one in California. If you prohibit and say you can only have a house in this town, you limit those, you restrict those kind of people from being part of your, from artists. Being part of who's defending
yeah,
that position. I went to art school, you know, see a lot of artistic live work situations, and you know, you say, oh, we can have our houses to live in, that you're throwing a certain element of your population out. You're throwing out your artists, your creative people. They add to your something to consider.
Anybody else from the public?
It relates a little bit to what she was saying, that the comprehensive plan, part of the discussion was
Can we name and,
September.
I know, but we're recording also.
our zoning right now is Euclidean zoning, which where we go with all the distance districts. Part of the discussion was, should we be switching over to more of a hierarchical zoning where you allow things to be mixed? That's, I question Steve's removal of retail from the R2 for that reason. Because when you get a larger R2 development such as the Dunes, I know they're not doing it, but there's 80 acres out there. Would it hurt to have a coffee shop in there? Would it hurt to have some kind of a small commercial facility that fits in and allows you to have neighborhood access to those type of things. It's a change from what we're doing, but it's something to consider. So I think we need to think about that. As was one of the things in the comp plan was looking at changing the districts like through the main corridors to allow that kind of mixed use development without being strictly on the Euclidean that you cannot have a commercial piece inside the residential. You can't have residential inside commercial. Mix it up a little bit. We're putting trails all the way through town to try and make everything walkable. You still don't want to space all that stuff out too far that you can have nodes of different things.
If I can ask, didn't you just describe PUD
What I
zoning?
was gonna say,
No, because there's
Sounds like it.
that's another zoning district for us. So that would be changing it to a district.
Mhm.
This is allowing, worst case, highest level of it. If you've got a zoning that's in our case, I think R2, which is I2, which is industrial, you can put a house in there if you want to. You can put residential in with that. So it's walking distance to the work. And the pyramid goes down and gets more restrictive. And usually the most restrictive is the R1. To get down to R1, you're only going to allow residential houses. But you kind of allow more things. Anything that's allowed below it is allowed in that. So it gives more flexibility to what's going on. Just make everything have to come back and be rezoned and gives a little bit more personal control on the property that if I want to do that, I can.
Yeah,
but Kevin, you were talking about, when Steve brought up PUD, before PUD was required with the commercial.
Required to have commercial.
Required. And with that requirement, it would have actually opened the door to what we're talking about here. But it was changed due to thinking that the PUD shouldn't have to have that extra or whatever, planned unit. But I think back before it was changed was ideal for just exactly what she's bringing up, what you're
Like
bringing as
you have
well.
an artist in residency, program, you have these different work application areas like Skowhegan or Saugatuck or in Lake Forest, Ragsdale, and it's a building that has art studios and it has people living there in them. And it has like a, conference room, and a gallery and a kitchen and all that kind of stuff, right, in a residential neighborhood. How do you do that?
But a planned unit building is not necessarily all residential, is it? The PUD, a planned unit building,
Oh,
is not necessarily residential.
oh,
I mean, a planned unit, we're looking at here on 20th Road. That is not all residential. It's for multifamily entertainment, whatever you want to call it.
But if you rewrote, unless you rewrite our PUD, you could not use it for that function because our PUD right now is written for large scale. That's why we got in trouble with trying to do that for Lakeshore Drive.
Right.
It's not written for small projects. It's written for major.
But it was written for small, well, you say major, but it was written for both before, but it was changed somewhere in the process where we had a 150-yard setback,
Setback.
which was never in there.
Out of line. So
And a lot of those things were changed due to,
I'm not suggesting
Right.
anything changes tonight. I'm just saying, as you're considering some of these things, those were comp plan discussions that ought to be had as part of the zoning discussion.
you make a good point about the R2. Why couldn't, I can't imagine where it is exactly, but why couldn't you have an apartment building with a coffee shop or a place to drop off your dry cleaning on the first floor? I mean, what would be objectionable about?
Why would we object to
Yeah,
we
that
had.
may be one for us to rethink.
Main Street,
Right.
Down there, but,
Yeah.
That's never objected to. But I'm just saying, for the PUD, you can rewrite that plan and develop it in a way that would open up for what the comprehensive plan says for just all the others.
But you're putting yourself
Well, it
in
does
a
say
position
that.
where you have to go through that whole PUD process, which is a major process
Right.
in order to put that into effect.
Yeah.
If it's something, what I'm saying is something the comp plan is contemplating we should be doing, then we should be making it easier to happen. PUD is very restrictive, actually. You go through multiple steps and multiple meetings and a rezoning in order to do it. You go, that's time consuming and a problem when I just want to put a coffee shop. I'm not doing a major change to the whole district.
You're talking overlay districts and
I'm sorry.
you're talking overlay district.
No, I'm talking flexibility within the district. Rather than changing all the districts, you allow flexibility in the existing districts.
Do you? I mean, if you did that under like special use within a district, in other words, within
That would be like the first step into this.
first step
Yeah,
into
that
it,
would
then
be
you would
a way
actually
of
be able
doing
to
that.
review what's being done, whether you need to do more or whether.
And Kevin, you touched on something that I know that both of us have said in the past, but I'll just repeat it for the sake of putting it on the record, is that we've talked about, thankfully, about all of the grassroots level changes that need to be made in the ordinance. We haven't yet had the conversation about, here's the comprehensive plan, here are the big things that need to be changed in the ordinance, the big conceptual things that need to change in the ordinance. That's a different kind of conversation. I don't think we've done that yet.
You're basically saying we're playing catch up right now.
And we still got the big things, they're still lurking out there.
If you try and do those things right now, and this has been kind of our policy, Chester's going to be the first one to yell and say, that's spot zoning. You can't do that. Well, if you allow it in the district, then it's not spot zoning. It's something you determined ahead of time that this is something we would want to do. It's not a spot zoning piece then, it's allowable. It's allowable to do what she's talking about with the artist conclave type of setup. Or I'm trying to think of a building in town and we don't really have a good one that fits for that. But we do have some buildings that were semi-industrial. Culver Tool, use that as an example. It's in the S1. It was industrial before, but wasn't ever really zoned industrial. But it's that type of building that somebody could do what she's saying and put a residence in half of it and not do the other. Is that allowed under our zoning? Yeah, maybe, probably with a variance and extra process. But if it's something we want, kind of like what Steve's cleaning up now, if we want it to happen anyway, we should be writing it in there instead of making it have to go through the additional process. And comp plan says we want to do this, so just food for thought.
I would also suggest the main building.
Yes.
They're using cast.
Which was recently purchased.
Oh, that was.
Theoretically, you can do it in C1. C1 allows residential above commercial. But C2 is restrictive on that. It doesn't allow residential in C2, right?
Right.
Or did we change that?
That's what I.
Wow.
B2 does allow residential, not on the main floor. So you can have apartments above your business.
But to your point, it's like, well,
That's C1 also.
It is.
I'd rather see those storefronts on South
That's what I'm saying.
Main Street occupied by people living there, just vacant. So,
Oh, I'm sorry. Any other citizen input? Okay. Commissioners' concerns and inputs.
I do have a concern. They bring up the same thing you brought up to couch, but one of them is the property next to it. With the boats. I mean, there's a whole lot more boat done there. And I know that there are 4 that's private boats, his own boat that he's doing. But if anybody looking in the fact that
Yes. It's not a dead issue. It's not a dead issue. It's still somewhat active.
okay. I know it's active.
It being addressed is still
And then the
active.
other one, it's old business, I guess, because the couple farm out there. I mean, county took that over. Is there any progress in that? There's still the old cars in there, still everything else in there. I haven't looked to see if the trailer is still on the property line. Truck trailer.
The answer to that is item was in there and the cleanup was satisfactory at that time to what item wanted to have done, as well as it met the county. That property is grandfathered in for that business. And as long as they continually operate their business, there's not a lot I can do or we can do unless they start having some more environmental issues there.
I mean, environmental wasn't the only process that's questioned, because as far as, then, you know, they did move the concrete crushed away from the road, that fact, and Chuck was still here. But, I don't know if the truck trailers are not even allowed to be used for storage on property, but those were actually on 2 properties. You know, I can't go back there, really.
Because that business goes back to the
Business.
50s.
There's still another property.
They were across property lines.
And
so.
cross property.
So
And that can be grandfathered in.
Did the other.
not,
Heard of it.
no, if people own their property, then you can, if somebody owns it and complains about it, then we can do something. If the owner of the property that they're across doesn't complain,
If nobody complained, like.
But they're not even supposed to be.
and actually, that could become more of a civil matter between the property owners.
The fact that they were using the truck trailers.
Yeah, I thought they killed the truck trailers storage is not, outlawed.
I don't-
I thought they were trying to.
So it's gonna be our zoning, in our zoning
It is.
ordinance.
Oh,
I've been out there.
Huh?
I've been out there a couple of times.
okay.
Okay, anybody else have any concerns? All right. And, return. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Okay.
And several.
They're all terrible.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I don't know.
Yeah, that didn't land that way.
That's right. I'm just-
Yeah, it's all on plate.
Yeah, they said-
So it's sold, I don't recall the person who bought it.
Doru Viticon.
No.
Yeah,
It's on Beacon.
yeah, right, I was looking at, yeah.
I'm not sure what the plan is, depends who you talk to. It's gonna either involve, I think more likely is if they decide to develop it into anything, it'll likely, they'll likely need to start over. They'll likely need to tear it down. Structurally, it's in really bad shape.
I hope they keep the wood paneling.
It looks nice on the outside, but it's really, really bad in basement and other parts.
Come on, you gotta keep history.
So then what I can only speculate what it could be developed into. Shops in below and condos up above. I can only speculate at this time.
So you don't know if they're going to house the bank in its location then?
I don't know that. It'd be just speculation.
My speculation from years ago, the bank would be happy to be ousted.
Yeah, I kind of got that feeling too.
You still working at
The county? Yes.
At, which office?
They
Recorder?
would like to have
Or-
storefront.
or-
Oh, but they don't, as long as they don't have to operate.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I understand.
That's what they're like,
You know,
well, we don't. use
filling
this
out,
part, we don't
you
use
know,
this
the
part.
size of
So they
your
were talking
house
to town.
everything.
Town hall.
Assessor.
Yeah.
Oh, do they still have that information?
Well.
Nothing's changed.
Which,
You can go on Beacon and just click property record card.
you have
Go to
any
Beacon?
Sorry, you familiar with Beacon?
No.
Oh, yeah, I can.